Breaking that down first of all is Toitū te mana Motuhake, and this is the part of the Deed of Settlement where Apanui expressly preserves our rangatiratanga and our mana Motuhake, our sovereignty, to ourselves, and doesn't cede it or concede it along the way. So we don't acknowledge that that's ever been surrendered to the Crown. So the position of Te Whānau Apanui is that Apanui have never ceded sovereignty, and that the Crown's assertion and exercise of sovereign authority in and of itself is a breach of the treaty. The issue of Crown sovereignty obviously is a major constitutional issue for Aotearoa. It's a subject of a kaupapa inquiry before the Waitangi Tribunal. There hasn't really been the opportunity to unpack that and wrestle with it within the treaty settlements process, because the Crown set the parameters for that treaty settlement process and constitutional issues have never been up for discussion. But that's of vital importance to us as an iwi, because it's about our nationhood. It's about our ability to be independent and continue in our independence going forward. So Apanui, of course, have an ongoing claim to sovereignty and to the exercise of our rangatiratanga. To ensure that there can't be any mischief read into this agreement that we, say for example, have surrendered or conceded that the Crown have a right to be sovereign over top of our mana and the mana of our mokopuna, we have explicitly put into this deed of settlement wording that preserves the Apanui position on mana motuhake. So the deed records that Apanui consider that they are a sovereign nation who do not cede sovereignty to the Crown and have not ever ceded sovereignty to the Crown. So the deed explicitly records that Whānau Apanui consider that we are a sovereign nation who do not cede sovereignty to the Crown when we signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi on the 14th of June 1840 in Te Kaha, and that we retain our sovereignty to today. It's been uninterrupted by our treaty relationship with the Crown. The Crown, of course, considers that their sovereignty was established, they say, by a process of constitutional and jurisdictional steps. Those are somewhat vague to us and they're not set out, but it's the basis for the Crown claim of sovereignty, and that they say that their sovereignty is intact. We, of course, challenge that. We'll continue to challenge that. Most importantly, those two positions are not reconciled by this deed of settlement. We're not giving up an inch on that, and the Crown's not really giving any space on that either. But also, we're not settling that as part of this deed of settlement. We're keeping the debate for that live. So the wording inside the deed is that nothing in the deed can be interpreted as relinquishing or extinguishing the Te Whānau Apanui claim to ongoing mana, rangatiratanga or sovereignty, or prevent Te Whānau Apanui raising its views about sovereignty with the Crown in the future. That's to prevent mischief and to give our mokopuna a very clear indication that those issues are still live. When it comes to the sovereignty statements, like I've said, these are a little bit unique to the Apanui settlement. I'm going to read in full the Te Whānau Apanui sovereignty statement so you can see what's written inside the deed and what we've tried to be explicit about preserving. So the Te Whānau Apanui sovereignty statement reads, the iwi is an indigenous nation. They have ongoing and enduring mana, rangatiratanga and sovereignty over the territory of Te Whānau Apanui. Te Whānau Apanui rely on inherent sovereign authority and jurisdiction acquired when the Hapū of Te Whānau Apanui settled their territory in accordance with tikanga and consistent with the accepted international law standards. This sovereignty has never been taken, ceded, voluntarily relinquished or acquired in any other way by a foreign power or government, including the Crown. Accordingly, Te Whānau Apanui have never considered and have consistently objected to the claim by the Crown that the treaty they signed on 14 June 1840 was a treaty of cession. Further, the treaty they signed protected Whānau Apanui's territorial integrity and rangatiratanga. Te Whānau Apanui's nationhood and rangatiratanga survived the signing of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Te Whānau Apanui rely on their indigenous law, history, expert findings of the Waitangi Tribunal and international law, particularly the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as reaffirming that they are sovereign in their own right and entitled to the full measure of their Indigenous and treaty-protected rights as a matter of law and fact. So that's the Apanui sovereignty statement that's right at the front end of this deed of settlement, to ensure that we're properly contextualizing what it is we're doing in this treaty settlement and being clear about what it is we're not doing as part of the treaty settlement.